this session, we are going to talk about acquiring the opportunities. In the previous session, we spoke about the buyers, how to find buyers, how to identify the buyers, how to engage with the buyers. And this goes hand in hand with our theme for this session, acquiring the opportunities. Now we're starting in this module to get into a bit more meat of the content of what SPX really adds and what the value is of the program. I can at this stage just mention that acquiring the opportunities is slightly different in the sense that you have to dig a bit deeper, and that is after you've seen and after you've identified the buyers and buying opportunities. Now we have to do that very important thing of getting the opportunities. I know that's not the best word to use, but it works in the sense that we now know we have to get those opportunities. And we are going to interrogate and investigate how we're going to actually do that. The outline of this session is defining an opportunity. We cannot acquire or get, our favorite word, an opportunity if we don't define it. It must be something that is tangible. As we also said in the previous session, to run around all over the place, and if you see an opportunity or you see a building project or you see an engineering project or you hear about government spending, we're going to spend billions and billions of rands on some other project, one must be very careful not to rush in. Yes, it can go on to our pipeline, as we said in the previous session. It can definitely be recorded on the opportunity pipeline. That is only the first step. But to acquire that opportunity is what we're going to talk about. The first point, just to reiterate, define it. Define the opportunity clearly. The second point is the process for refining opportunities. That is the second aspect that we're going to talk about. There's a process of refining an opportunity. We define it. It's not identifying. That is predefining. Then we look at the process for refining the opportunity. And then the third aspect that we are going to talk about is after the initial contact. Now, as we go along in this session, you will see that we are in this process of acquiring opportunities. There is also, similarly, not similar, but very much like the previous session, a lot of interaction. There's going to be a lot of networking. There's going to be a lot of market intelligence that we have to find and that we have to establish to make sure we have quality opportunities. The SPX program we cannot falter on the quality of the opportunities. If we falter on the quality of the opportunity, we're going to find a situation where you will eventually sit with a pipeline but no contracts. And I think that's something very important that we must remember. Let's look at the first point, defining an opportunity. Now, how do we define an opportunity? Any opportunity should be defined on the basis of its chance of realizing into a matchmaking scenario. Those are the gems that the SPX in many instances come across. Those are the gems that what the SPX program, sometimes they find them. In many cases, they don't find them. It takes us back, and I want to reiterate, it takes us back to what we said. You must remember, we're not running after any opportunity. It is also important for us to remember that in that first session on the benchmarking should be done for companies that are really in for a chance on opportunities. That's on the supplier side, slightly different. But we can say the same for the buyers. We can say exactly the same for the buyers, that if we do benchmark buyers, in many instances it can happen. I still believe and I still maintain that benchmarking buyers is as important as benchmarking suppliers. But it is a sort of an unwritten policy that the buyers are already established. They are buyers, and they are the people that actually should be getting the suppliers that have been benchmarked. But as an analogy, I wanted to say that we have this policy that we do not run after any company to benchmark them. And we can say the same for buyers. We are not going to run after any buyer, and as I said, it could just remain in the pipeline. So I would like just again to reiterate, the SPX program is there to find opportunities that have a real chance of turning into a matchmaking scenario, or then, if you want to call it something else, into a contracting scenario. Within this context, the following procurement sector levels have been selected to illustrate where to start identifying relevant possibilities. Now, within that context, which we've just mentioned now, we have selected and we have identified the various sector levels of procurement. Now, high-level government spend programs. Those are the ones where government has committed themselves for many big and many efforts, large efforts, big money, a lot of funding, and strategic decision making on spending that money on behalf of the country. There will be examples at the end of or in the study guide as well, and in the website on those type of programs. And we all know, as we sit here, that there are huge projects that are planned always, continuously. Those are projects that we as SPX must keep our ear and our eyes open for. The SOCs. I've spoken about the SOCs so many times. An example, a state-owned company has 50% government partnership, or government is 50% partner usually, or maybe more, and that is a sort of almost a secondary government spend. Government spends a lot of money on infrastructure, governments, and mostly through the SOCs. An example, in South Africa, for instance, we have the rolling stock, the infrastructure on public transport, buses, we have energy, alternative energy projects, the huge project on radio telescopes. There's the ports that are being expanded, roads. They are huge, those are big government spend projects. And the SOCs are sometimes in the middle of that. So yes, we mustn't become too bogged down with and confused that we do have very specific high-level government spend, and we have the state-owned companies or enterprises whose spend is also very big. The import replacement opportunities. An example in one country that the castings, in other words foundries, this is the sort of almost the basic metal manufacturing sector, they supplied locally to their public transport, railway sector. They supplied about 90% of all the undercarriage castings, and we know that there are huge castings. The undercarriage of rolling stock, of locomotives and wagons and coaches is huge. That spend was taken out of that country for various reasons, and those are the components or products that should be targeted by the SPX. Because remember, what we're saying here is we are looking at quality opportunities. Now, that country is busy now to look at all those imported components that used to be made in the country locally, and to start replacing them again with local content. Because in many instances they still have the capability and the capacity. And I think, just slightly off the cuff, the SPX, we must look between, and we must read between the lines. The SPX is very important in the sense that we must find those obvious ones. Obvious opportunities are always there. But the market intelligence is very, very important, that we dig in, dig deeper, find out where and what has happened to certain product ranges. Another country had a big problem with the clothing and textiles and footwear, where suddenly everything was imported from other countries. And government came and they said, we are going to designate, and that means, designation means 85% or more local from now onwards. SPX must know about that. They must have that information and that market intelligence. That's not really market intelligence, but they must have the intelligent information which comes from government and from all these levels. That's why we are mentioning these levels. If we go back, government spending programs, huge in many developing, all the countries, developing countries, developed countries. The state-owned companies, which are stakeholders, they are partners of government. That could also be seen as government spend. And that's all linked to the government development plans. Import replacement opportunities, huge in many countries. People sometimes think they cannot do things locally. There's a lot of imports that could be replaced with the help of the SPX. Private sector OEMs procurement program. The OEMs are the first tiers, or for that matter, contractors, private contractors. As we said, these are huge opportunities that could be acquired. And then in each of these, SPX should have a strategy of engagement. I would like to call it terms of engagement. And there will be we will talk about that at a later stage as well. And the terms of engagement is that we must know these sector levels or procurement levels to understand the tendering process, the timelines, how to approach the OEMs, which we mentioned earlier, and that we can be focused and that we can be effective. That is absolutely crucial. The defining process. The SPX has a mechanism, and it's one of many. And we've found that this mechanism is very effective in the situation where I am involved in. They call it a rhythm meeting. Now, the rhythm meeting is where your big buyers, by now we know the big buyers are either the main contractors or OEMs, first tier suppliers, or both. In other words, it could be the contractor and the OEM working together in finding sourcing suppliers. That is important to say that, because they obviously have to work together. But in sourcing suppliers, the main contractors are dependent on their OEMs. And those OEMs have obligations. Now, the buyers at these meetings, which usually are once a month, they bring to the table contracts that are imminent, contracts that have been awarded, contracts that they are planning within a timeline that are going to be awarded. In all three of these instances, there are potential opportunities. But the rhythm meeting is there not for them just to come and inform the meeting and the associations who are there to listen, because the associations are the source of our suppliers. So the rhythm meetings is not just coming and talking about possible opportunities, but they must table real, as I just said, real opportunities. Contracts imminent, contracts awarded, contracts imminent, contracts in the near future. And they commit themselves there what it is that they are going to source, with volumes, values. That is crucial. Otherwise, it's a talk shop. We don't want buyers to table just fluffy, possible pipeline or in the pipeline opportunities. The good old direct visit to our neighbors, very important. I'm not going to expand on that. We must have a strategy we must have a clear strategy when you do a direct visit. We all know we have to be very clear on what the SPX can do, what the value add is. The questions that are asked every time when I meet buyers. What is it that you can assist me with? And the immediate answer must be, I can give you access to local suppliers that are capable and that have the capacity to assist you to reach your localization obligations or whatever obligations there may be. You must entice them to say, good, through the SPX program we can find suppliers or new suppliers. In many instances we must also not be unrealistic. We do find that big SOCs, big companies, they have their approved supplier list. They have people that have been supplying them for ages. The big challenge of the SPX is to grant main contractors and OEMs access to new good suppliers. Contacts from buyers as a result of marketing. Now, it's a bit of a fuzzy one, but buyers do their own marketing as well. Buyers have come to us and said, look, well, how can you help us? We've done marketing. This and this and this company could be a possible supplier. Would you like to help us in vetting, not vetting really, but assisting us in developing them? We'd like them to be profiled. We'd like them to be benchmarked. So that is a SPX value add to the buyer. And then RFQs posted, the RFQs request for quotes. I'm not going to expand too much on the MIS. That's the management information, the new management information system on Unido, on the Unido's system. But it is one of the exciting aspects and additions to this is that buyers can actually now, if it's up and running, post directly RFQs on the MIS, and you can then get suppliers that are interested and they can respond. It comes through the SPX. The SPX, we vet, we check the responses, and we filter them, and we take the process from there. Further process, if firm tenders or procurement opportunities exist, if they exist, then that is real, that's where we must hone in. As I said earlier also, because this information we also can get from rhythm meetings and other means. Non-disclosure agreement between Unido and buyer. It's optional, but for instance, big organizations, big OEMs that have IP, most of them do, they actually insist on an NDA. It's a non-disclosure agreement. It's a document a standard document where both parties indicate their intention not to divulge sensitive information on each other, and also not to disclose any details or anything regarding their interaction in the process. And then after that, we'd come to a very exciting milestone in this whole process, and that is where a bill of material, initial bill of material is sent out. If we feel that opportunity is something worthwhile and that we can send out to our suppliers and to our database that we have, then we send out the initial bill of materials. An initial bill of materials can sometimes also be seen as a capability survey. But we must be very careful. A capability survey can be misconstrued, and I don't want us to become too confused on initial bill of materials. But the initial bill of materials does give us also a very good idea of a capability and capacity of our industry. It is an indication. So yes, it serves a double purpose. But let's stay to the fact that we're sending out a bill of materials. And then what we get back, what responses we get, is then something that the SPX will interrogate, investigate, and take it from there, take it further. The level of detail, it can vary on a bill of material. You will get examples of bills of material, capability surveys in the study material and also on the website. And it is very important that we, this is also, let me finish. It is very important that we follow this process, because it is also much easier to track and to evaluate and to look at the progress if we follow these steps. The process for refining the opportunities, that's mechanisms to deploy them. Now, what we've done is we have now acquired the opportunities. They with SPX now. Initially, we found buyers. We spoke about buyers. We identified buyers, and from that emanated opportunities. And we said we want to acquire those opportunities. And now the process for refining the opportunities has arrived. A business case is something very important in the SPX program. If you found an opportunity and you feel it's something that we need to pursue, you design a business case. And I want to be very clear. A business case is not a standard template or standard document. It is something that anybody can devise in their own way, as long as it gives you the correct and the right information. A business case is designed to give definition for all promising opportunities in each of the following sectors. The high-level government spend programs, we've already spoken about high-level government spend programs, state-owned companies, sourcing programs, import replacement opportunities, private sector, the OEMs, the procurement programs, the main contractors. Very important that those are the levels that one must think of in refining an opportunity by way of a business plan or a business case. Rhythm meeting follow-ups, very important. It is in the hands of the associations. The associations should send this information that they got from the buyers through to their members, and their members hopefully will then react as suppliers. The contacts from buyers as a result of marketing, buyers themselves can also give the SPX an indication of the refining, or in refining the opportunities, they can give the SPX an idea of what the possibilities are through their marketing, because they also know who the suppliers are, and they've done a lot of homework, and also they've got a lot of intelligence. Well, official engagements, that is logic. Visits and meetings are very important. RFIs, a request for information, that is one of the formal mechanisms through which buyer actually also, where the SPX asks for information from the suppliers, and that is very, very important for the buyers. Now, after the initial contact, that is, the contact has now been made, the contact has been done. After the initial contact, firm tenders or procurement opportunities exist. That is what the scenario usually is. If a firm tender exists or it's imminent, the opportunity is deemed real, and a concerted effort is made by SPX to pursue it. And that is where SPX plays a major role, is at this stage of the tendering process, we should know who the contractors are, who the potential contractors are. In fact, one must turn it around, say who the potential contenders are, who has received contracts in the tendering process, and then we have to find out who the main contractors are and who the OEMs are. The OEMs are their suppliers.